I hate the term Indian summer. I hate any term that colonizers used to describe anything talking about indigenous people. My preference is a Hungarian term, Venya Shunya Nyara, which means old lady summer. And it comes from the fact that in that part of Europe, these white spiders come out at that time of year, and they look like old witches or crones. And it was on one of the 10 most perfect old lady summer days that I met my third wife. She wasn't there at the time. I met her on Yahoo Personals, and it was about 6 o'clock in the morning of September 25th, 2006. I'd been scrolling, I couldn't find anybody in this area, no offense. And I came across this picture of a girl who lived about an hour and a half away from here, happened to be in the town where I graduated from high school. And I was in love. She had auburn hair, an electric blue shirt in this picture, and ice blue, gorgeous eyes. And I sent her a message, not expecting her to answer me. She had just turned 24 the week before. I was 39. She had never been married and really was just dating to meet guys to take her out for dinner. I had been married twice before. First time, my wife ended up being diagnosed with brain cancer. My second marriage was a lovely woman, but short of Ted Bundy or Jodi Arias, we had each met the worst possible partner in the world for us. And here was Melissa. I sent her an email, she answered me. We talked for 6 hours on the phone that night. We talked for at least 4 hours every night the rest of the week, and on Saturday we had our first date. And a year and 3 days after we met, we eloped to Niagara Falls. And on a gorgeous summer day, it had rained all morning, the sun came out as we entered the Niagara Falls, New York City Hall. The mayor married us. Now, this was a few years before the mayor of Niagara Falls, New York was indicted on corruption charges, and I almost got Melissa indicted on assault charges that day because when his secretary took a picture of us, it was the mayor on one side, me on the other, Melissa in the middle. Right when the secretary snapped a picture, I grabbed her ass. And for a good 3 seconds, she didn't know if it was me or if it was him. Now, Melissa knew I identified as trans. I had told her that on the second date when I realized she's probably gonna see me naked and wonder why my legs are shaved. And it didn't bother her at all. We fell in love, and her only thing was, don't stretch my clothes out. I had gone my entire life, 2 marriages, 4 children, and I had done everything I could to not deal with this because I knew what the fallout would be. But about 3 years into our marriage, I couldn't do it anymore. I knew that I was either going to kill myself or I was going to transition. And one Saturday night in August of 2010, it was about 90 million degrees outside. We had done yard work all day. She was cooking dinner. I drank almost an entire bottle of Now and Zen Alsace White. And I walked into the kitchen, drunk and crying, and she looked at me and said, "You have to transition, don't you?" So I made a doctor appointment that Monday, and I went, and within a few months I was on hormones. Within 7 months I had socially transitioned, and I had come alive. And it changed our relationship profoundly, not just for the fact that we both looked really good in the same clothes, but because Melissa is probably the straightest person I'd ever met. But it didn't matter, we were best friends, we were in love. She was my partner. She helped me so much. I had waited all my life for this, and I made a lot of the same mistakes that you might imagine some people would make. You get to wear whatever you want for the first time, but that doesn't mean you're going to look good in it. and she helped me patiently. That does not go with your skin color. If you leave the house in that, I will change the fucking locks. Oh, are they doing the Kids Bop audition for Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? After a few months, we left this area and moved to Arizona, where she got a job teaching. And one of the things that made Melissa and me work was the fact that we were so very much alike. We were both nerdy, we were both shy, introverted, misanthropic. We didn't enjoy the rest of the world, we enjoyed ourselves. But I was a different person now. I loved being out. I wasn't afraid, I didn't care. I wanted to meet everybody. I wanted to hear their stories. I wanted to tell my own story. About a year after we were living in Arizona, we went to a Planned Parenthood event. And when it was over, she couldn't find me. And she's looking all around, and she finally came outside, and it's 110 degrees, and I'm out there chain smoking with this girl I'd never met before. In 10 minutes, we were best friends. We were planning on getting together. And on the way home, Melissa just turned and looked at me and said, I don't know who you are. And she was right, because I was somebody completely different. I was happy. I was me for the first time in over 40 years. But I had given up a lot to have that happiness. We weren't together anymore the way you are when you're a married couple. She seemed to be okay with that, but we didn't touch, we didn't make love. And after a few years of incredible success outside the house, I had become a community educator. I had started doing political work, activist work. I was featured on Fox News in Phoenix for the work that I did. But there was an emptiness between us that we couldn't talk about. I tried, but we couldn't talk about it. And I missed my wife. So after 6 years of glorious work, of being me, I did the unthinkable. I cut my hair, I threw away my clothes, I changed my name back. People talk about I would give up my life for the person I love, and I did that. I gave it up. I sent a picture of myself with a crew cut to my parents, who were very happy that they got their son back. My mother said, Jesus finally found you. And I didn't tell her what I was thinking was, well, I haven't had sex in 7 years, so I'm about to find him, I hope. But it didn't happen. Not that night, not that week, not that month, not that year. And after a few years of the same dynamic, the love and the friendship, but the wall between us, I asked her why. And she looked at me and said, it doesn't matter what you look like. I know who you are. And I'd given up who I was to be with her, to stay with her. And she had given up a whole part of what makes being a grown-up wonderful and being in love wonderful. But she couldn't be with me because she knew who I was. It was like this weird lesbian gift of the Magi thing. And I knew that if I stayed, we would always keep trying to make this work, and neither of us would end up being happy. So I left Arizona, I moved back here to Pennsylvania. And when the dust had settled, I knew what I needed to do. I went to the doctor, I began the hormones, only this time, Instead of transitioning because I didn't want to die, I did it because I wanted to live.